Good morning, one and all, and welcome to the Good Morning Walk. Unfortunately, indoors today. We have been unfortunately rained off. I have been waiting for the past hour to see if the rain would at least maybe let up enough to actually do a good morning walk, but unfortunately, um, that's not the case. It's also the reason why I was planning to do a Good Morning Wednesday walk as well, but we were rained off then as well. So it has generally been, unfortunately, quite a washout of a week for doing good morning walks this week, which is quite disappointing. Because, like I say, I like doing sort of my good morning walks with you guys. It's quite fun. But yes, that's the problems and pitfalls when you decide to do a sort of a live broadcast outside. And well, it starts to absolutely tip it down. Like I say, it causes a lot of problems, of course, but them's the breaks. So, as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for coming along and joining us. Like I say, unfortunately, we are indoors today, but never mind. We will, as always, be bringing you all the good stuff. As always, good political talks, discussions, talks, and well, all that jazz. That's what we normally do. We talk and we have fun. So, yes, I'm very happy to sort of be with you today. And of course, as always, like I say, get your hellos, good mornings in this morning. Like I say, I can see Dave W. Croban. It's a lie-in today. Not today. Ben Ridings, good morning to you. Pretty Bird, greetings. Good morning to you. Matt C, good morning to you. Yes, always happy to see you all. Indeed, I am as well, like I say. So, what shall we talk about first? Lona Weirdo, good morning to you. Oh, hello. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. Like I say, welcome. Like I say, come on in, sit down, pull up a chair, have some breakfast, have some tea and coffee. Like I say, that's what the morning walk's all about. Just a nice, gentle chat and discussion. Oh, but one of the good things is when we do a good morning walk indoors, I can at least play you sort of videos and show you stuff as well. Like I say, I don't have that capabilities when I'm obviously doing the live stream because, well, I'm just holding my phone. So, Helen Wilkes, morning. Cat came in completely wet through. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised, Helen. It is absolutely still tipping it down here today. Which is a bit disappointing, like I say, because I do enjoy going out and, like I say, doing the good morning walk. The ponies would probably be looking very, very bedraggled, as always. Matt Sieg, bit early for a cider and black. Yes, I see. You're referring to my little t-shirt. But yes, as always, like I say, guys, good morning. Like I say, come on in. Like I say, remember to hit that like and share button. Like I say, share the wealth. In fact, I'm just going to actually, because I never do this. I never get this chance to do it when I am not like this. Hang on. Studio. I've got to share. Get shareable link. There we go. Put it in the Discord because I never get a chance to do this when I'm not. There we go. Right, excellent. That's done. Right, I've done my things. Anyway, Who Nation 152. Good morning to you as well. Gaijin, good morning to you as well. Tesseract 54. Good morning to you as well. Like I say, good morning to everyone. Like I say, remember, hit the like and share button, and yeah, we'll kick things off then. So I would generally like to kick things off. We're talking about Twitter, because I think Twitter is about to go through some very interesting changes. If you haven't heard, Elon Musk has bought Twitter, and I've said before, I sort of work in marketing, so this is not only going to affect probably certainly how we promote certainly the channel in the future, but it's also definitely going to heavily affect sort of my work as well. I've already had a couple of conversations with people about using Twitter going forward, and should they be using Twitter going forward, or should they be dropping Twitter and changing to different platforms? And I've said to a lot of people, depending on your feelings on this, take a wait and see attitude. But already, I am not filled with confidence about the direction that Elon Musk is going with this. So this is unfortunately one of the first things that has come up. Of course, Elon Musk declares Twitter Moderation Council as some push the platform's limits. And it is not surprising that it is conservatives who are doing this, because who is it all the time? Who is it all the time who are pushing the limits of Twitter's TOS? And remember, when you create an account on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, you agree to the platform's terms of service. It's not censorship, it's just you agreeing to those platforms' terms. And very often it is these conservatives who end up really pushing the TOS. And it predominantly is conservatives basically saying hateful and bigoted things, and being shocked that there is a pushback when they say hateful and bigoted things on, well, a public platform. Yeah, it's not surprising, but this, I think, goes to a very, very, very much a deeper worry about the platform, to be honest. So, among the urgent questions currently facing Twitter is the new era as the private company now under Elon Musk, a self-declared free speech absolutionist. And of course, we know, and again, like I say, in the past, having talked to quote free speech absolutionists, they basically want to get away with saying really hateful stuff and then just going, oh, it's just a joke, That was my terrible attempt at the Scottish accent. Chthonic, good morning to you. But that's it. They're really pushing the boundaries of this platform. And I said years ago, that sooner or later, one of them is going to push something too far, and then they're going to get hit. And to be honest, that's what's eventually been happening. But now Elon Musk is here, and he seems to be sort of rolling that back. I expect Twitter to become a really bad cesspit for the foreseeable future. I really do think so. I don't think it's going to be a very good place for the foreseeable future. I really don't. Oh, Chthonic, Cathalo G as well. Good morning to you. After finalizing his takeover and ousting senior leadership, Musk declared on Friday that he would be forming a new, quote, content moderation council that will bring together diverse views on this issue. This is going to be interesting, what this moderation council actually becomes and who sits on it and what diverse views actually means. I don't know if you may remember, a couple of years ago now, we talked about when I think it was the far right in Italy and their vaccination council, they booted off all these scientists and experts, and the health minister, who was rabidly anti-vax, said that they were going to create a new council with diverse views. Now, um, eventually, I think there was enough pushback that it didn't happen. But yeah, that could have caused a lot of issues for certainly vaccination programs in Italy. Uh, it's worrying, the fact when you get this type of stuff coming in. Um, but we'll see. Oh, Tilly the Coder. How long do you think Sunak will last? If Braverman resigns or gets sacked, would it take him down too, or would it make their polling worse? We'll get to that. We'll get to that issue later, but my issues and thoughts on that very quickly are: I think Braverman's days are numbered. I think more information is meant to be coming out certainly this weekend and next week about more of those ministerial breaches. Um, if she goes, it won't probably mean the end of Sunak. He's very likely to replace her with someone on the right wing. The question is who, and I said that initially, that why would you choose Braverman after all this, breaches? Doesn't make sense to bring her back when you could have chosen someone else from the right wing. He is going to put someone else in the right wing position, which will essentially create, as Sunak would probably like to say, peace in his time, because the Tories now are desperate for at least some quiet period, because they probably know they're going to lose the next general election, and Sunak's job isn't to win it, but it's to avoid a wipeout. And that's really his job, certainly for the next year or 2 years before there is a general election. So let's get back to this. No major content decisions or announcement reinstatements will happen before the council convenes, he tweeted. Again, what's this council mean, and who's going to be on this council? And of course, I worry if you stack this council with a lot of, right wingers, they will see no problem when you have sort of hateful, bigoted, racist rhetoric, or even conspiracy theories and spreading of fake news, which Twitter has for years tried to crack down on, could come surging back onto the platform. And one of the things, if you've ever noticed, whenever like the conservatives have gone away to create like this new free speech platform, it becomes a complete hellscape, because they have no moderation, no TOS, all in the name of free speech. So it becomes a complete, complete cesspit. No advertiser wants to go near it. And of course, if you're creating that type of money or this type of website, you need advertisers to be able to keep it running. But if you are creating the type of environment which is making a lot of advertisers very nervous to advertise in your platform, then it becomes a big problem. But I don't think Musk is going to be owning Twitter for long. I think this is very much a publicity stunt, and I think he'll sell it. I don't think Elon Musk owns Twitter maybe longer than 2 or 3 years. I really can't see him owning it for this amount of time. I think this is going to be a massive chain around his neck. I think it's going to be good for him initially, but after a while, I don't think so. Anyway, back to it. But this hasn't stopped users from cheering or criticizing what they expect to be a quick embracement of Musk's pledges to cut back on moderation in an effort to promote free speech. And here's the thing: this is what, again, users on the right say all the time. Oh, we want free speech, but what they really want is consequence-free speech. They want to be able to say, again, racist, bigoted, and hateful things and have no comeback on it. most of the time when you see people quote unquote get cancelled, it's because they said something that was, again, pretty racist, pretty bigoted, pretty hateful, and they got pushback on it, and they didn't like the fact that they were being pushed back on for saying that, and stuff. That's that is basically what has happened. Every single time you look into someone who's being cancelled, that is more often the point. Concerns obviously rage over whether Musk will reinstate the account of Donald Trump, who's banned from the platform. Again, um, that is very worrying. I think Trump should be banned from the platform. Um, but again, it's up to Musk, but that will set a very, um, very bad precedent, and you will certainly see the direction in which way Twitter will head after that. Again, he was banned after the January the 6th Capitol attack, and whether a less regulated platform will allow hate speech and disinformation to flourish even further. With the US midterms just days away, concerns about the political misinformation are also taking on a renewed urgency. Civil rights organizations have also sounded the alarm about the proliferation of harmful content, an issue which Twitter already struggles with while Republicans have celebrated the change of ownership. Bear in mind, it is also worth raising news today. Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked by someone in their home in California while shouting, "Where's Nancy?" You know, I think others said it before. There's been a really worrying rise in political violence in the US, and Musk changing these rules on Twitter isn't necessarily going to help it. So his acquisition of Twitter has opened a Pandora's box, the advocacy group Ultraviolet said in a Friday statement, while also urging Musk. Twitter executives at the company's board of directors also will continue to force the ban on Trump, as well as violent right-wing extremists and white supremacists. Musk has also tried to downplay fears, particularly among the advertisers, that he will depend to keep the company afloat. General Motors has already said that it will pause all ads on the sites while it weighs up the direction Musk will take, and other companies could follow suit. So that is going to be a massive impact on you, because this is it. You cannot run this type of website without big companies running ads on it. You just can't run this type of website. And if these big advertisers do run and jump ship, that's going to cause a big problem. It is going to cause a big, big problem on this. Lona Weirdo. This is probably a controversial opinion. I don't think Trump should be banned. It's like being kind of denied a phone number. Social media is how we talk to each other now. I get he's hateful. Well, the thing is, he broke their TOS. This is it. Trump broke the TOS. He broke the terms of service on Twitter. That is why his account was banned. And it was banned because of the stuff that he promoted in and around, obviously, January the 6th. So, and the thing is, he's not that he's not being able to communicate. I mean, Trump still goes out all over America and does all these rallies, and he's on like Fox News, all these other things. So it's not like he can't communicate, He's just been banned off the platform. So yeah, okay, he's been banned off there, but so what? He's still out there. He's still being able to communicate with all his people, but it's not like he can't. And he has gone to another social media platform. Didn't he go to Gab or somewhere else, and didn't he even try to start his own social media network and platform? So again, it's not like he's been banned. It's just that he didn't follow the terms of service. And when you sign up to a Twitter, Facebook, whatever, you say you will follow these rules when you make that account. And if you don't follow those rules, well, you get banned. In a message this week to Twitter's advertising clients, Musk said that the platform, quote, obviously cannot become a free-for-all hellscape, and the platform, quote, must be warm and welcoming to all. Again, you cannot have this and it be a, a complete hellscape. I think we'll have to see which way this goes. Definitely we'll have to see which way this goes, but like I say, there's a lot of people, like say me, who work in sort of marketing and sort of advertising, who are looking at this going, um, yeah, Twitter might Twitter might actually generally die. Twitter might actually generally die under Elon Musk. So yeah, like I said, and I said at the beginning of this, there's a lot of people rethinking using Twitter now, um, sort of as a marketing and promotion platform. So yeah, we'll have to see how this goes, but and what Musk does. But I'm not really holding out too much hope for it, to be honest. I really am not hoping out too much hope. I think there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong. I think it depends what type of this moderation council is, what powers they have, and the decision making process that they go through. Um, we'll have to see. Because, like I say, you've got the council when it will form, and then it's who's on that council, and then we'll have to see what happens, like where their first big case and their first big ban comes from, or maybe there's a big, push to ban someone who has been sort of spreading, hateful and rhetoric speech, and then they just go, no, it's fine. you know, that's where the problems will come in. Um, But like I say, it's very much a wait and see attitude. A very, very much wait and see attitude on this. Alexander Campbell, good morning to you. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you are right, Pretty Bird. Kind of like MySpace. People forget what MySpace was actually like and why people changed over to Facebook because MySpace just throttled back massively on its moderation, and then it became a complete hellscape. So everyone went over to Facebook because Facebook was more moderated. And even then, when that mass exodus happened, they did try and pull back on the moderation, and I think MySpace is still up there. Um, I don't think it's once as um, active now as it used to be back in the day, but yeah, it just goes to show you if you are not um, on moderation, you can very quickly lose a lot of people because no one wants to be in a complete hellscape. They really, really don't. Leonardo, I can see your point of view. I just worry about isolating these people in their own bubbles, completely free of other points of view. Here's the thing. So, years and years ago, I started my, again, bit deep lore for you now. deep lore for you now. So, years ago, I started my channel really talking out and debunking sort of conspiracy theorists. And here's the thing. I did move some people away from their conspiracy theorist belief, but the problem is some people are so ballooned and so cocooned in their own worldview that they cannot let go of one worldview or one conspiracy theory, because if they do, it is so intertwined and linked to other conspiracy theories that their entire cocoon would fall apart. What I found with most of the people that did sort of move away from conspiracy theorists and talking to them, and not just conspiracy theorists, but people who were like deep into like the alternative medical theory world, where they were using things like, I don't know if you know about it, but it's a substance called black salve, which again is a quack cure for skin cancer. But Black salve is incredibly dangerous and toxic substance that some people using it have burned off their nose. Like their nose has literally fallen off their face. But some people are so obsessed with this alternative medical stuff that they completely distrust any form of modern medicine. But those who I talk to over the years who have sort of come away from that have done so because they started to have doubts and they started to look for other content. People will move away because of that. Like someone will not seek out debunking content because they want to see debunking content. They're more concerned about having their worldview validated. It's the same for politics as well. The crazy sort of far right wingers are far, far, far more interested in having their worldview validated. We've had it for years on Brexit. There are, as I've always said, you separate the Brexiteers, so that's Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, etc., on one side, and then you have Brexit voters on the other. And Brexit voters are on a massive scale, and there are always going to be those who are always like hardcore, and they're not really interested. And I've had discussions with these people, and I've gone, well, you say Brexit was about trade, then what do you think to the trade figures that show that, Brexit hasn't really been good for trade? And they'll just go, oh, well, it's all right because we'll do all these extra trade deals. I'm sure it'll work out eventually. And don't get me wrong, I am not against these people, but the thing is, people will go to bubbles naturally. We are a very, very tribalistic species, like it or not, we are. Um, we've got that very much that campfire mentality. If you don't like one campfire, you'll just go to another. And people being in their own bubbles, well, they will go to their own bubbles. And like it or not, that's how it always happens. But you can reach people. But sometimes you've got to give them a reason to sort of come back to it. And I think banning them off big platforms, I'm fine with that. I really am. They'll go to sort of a bubble and they might even see that actually Parler, well, it's a complete hellscape. Why am I here? And it does happen. But I do agree with you. There are cases of people where they do get banned and stuff like that, and they end up going deeper, or they do digging deeper to the ideology. I do agree that is a problem, but you can't just let these people not be punished. There are consequences for their actions, and a lot of these people, especially on the right, can't seem to understand that they go out on a public platform, they say something that is, again, racist, hateful, bigoted, spread conspiracy theorists, and then all of a sudden they're shocked when they get the slightest bit of pushback. Because what most of them want is free speech, but they want consequence-free free speech. And that is really impossible to have in this case. Uh, you know, free speech is a double-edged sword, like it or not. Um, and that's always going to be the case. But yeah. So anyway, from one sort of depressing subject, unfortunately, to the next. As you know, we did a video about Northern Ireland. And I even did it the day before. I did it the day before because I knew these talks weren't going to work. I knew these talks weren't going to work at all because the DUP have been fostered and spoon-fed by the ERG for years, for years. And they were even propped up by the ERG at one point. And they have now continued to cause chaos. Because I said when was the first video after I think it was after the May elections in Stormont, where I just said, the DUP, they're just set to cause chaos after chaos after chaos because they specifically want to get rid of that border in the Irish Sea. It doesn't matter that you've got this alternative two-lane scenario, which seems to be very much given up on, by the way. And bizarrely, one of the good things that seems to be happening is there seems to be a softening of speech and tone towards the EU, which is good because we're less likely to go into a ridiculous trade war over this. But there seems to be now negotiations between the EU and the UK over the Northern Ireland Protocol. And that is a good thing because most of the issues over the Northern Ireland Protocol are these really technical, really we're talking millimeters versus milligram measurements. Like that's literally the amount of the detail that is going on over these talks, and they're highly technical. But under Boris, they weren't interested in having that because they were seeing that any talk with the EU might be seen as some sort of capitulation. And luckily now, they seem to have very, very much softened on this and they're moving away. So there are talks now happening over the Northern Ireland Protocol. And if these talks are done, then a deal can be done, which basically means the Northern Ireland Protocol is going to be there permanently. But the DUP have made it very, very clear. They do not want a border in the Irish Sea. And of course, as we've said multiple times, if you cannot have a border in the Irish Sea and you cannot have one between sort of the north of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland because of the Good Friday Agreement, where do you have the border? It becomes really, really difficult. Really, really difficult to try and really sort this out. Because the only real option is for all the UK to rejoin the single market and customs union. This is how we solve this problem because at that point, then you solve both sides. You solve their insistence that they want, to remain part of sort of the United Kingdom. Well, being in sort of the single market and customs union gives them that guarantee. But we're all in the single market customs union then. So, and of course, it upsets the Brexiteers, which is why I think very soon we're going to have a massive Brexiteer upset because we'll get into it in a bit. The Jacob Rees-Mogg law that looks like it is going to be killed, which is good, very, very good. And then, of course, you've got the Northern Ireland Protocol problem, which looks like it's going to be solved with negotiations. And of course, the ERG are going to be upset. And they could start really causing a lot of problems again for Rishi Sunak. And especially if he doesn't replace Braverman with someone else from the right. So this whole sort of kumbaya, peace in our time mantra that Rishi Sunak has been sort of singing for the past couple of days could very, very well come literally crumbling in around him. And we could very well once again get a government that just doesn't work. It's very, very possible. Oh yes. Larry the cat, good morning to you. Oh, Haggard Shanks, good morning to you as well. I think I can't know if I missed everyone. Uh, David, good morning to you as well. Um, so, yeah, Northern Ireland is very, very much, well, unfortunately, the people in Northern Ireland are very, very much being held hostage. Um, oh, Tom Nelson as well. Good morning to you. I didn't see you. Didn't see you there. Um, the people in Northern Ireland are very, very much being held hostage by the DUP, and it's not fair on them when Northern Ireland voted overwhelmingly to stay in the EU. It's not fair on them to have the DUP hold Stormont to essentially hostage and not allow them to have a functioning government. I think this is a terrible move by the DUP. Is it going to continue? I worry so, because the DUP have laid out their cause very, very clearly, and it worries me that a lot of conservatives think that, oh yeah, a deal can be done, when that's really not the DUP is saying. That's not what the DUP is saying at all. Oh my, we've got Jason Bourne. Jason Bourne, good morning to you. So they've really got a problem to sort out over there. And the DUP want to cause chaos because they want to sort of solve this Northern Ireland Protocol issue once and for all. And even you've got Steve Baker, who is the Northern Ireland Secretary in all this, who was once cheering on the DUP, egging them on, saying, yeah, let's bring down, Theresa May, let's get rid of her backstop deal. And then once they'd done with them and they got Boris in, they threw them under the bus to get the current Brexit deal over the line. And Steve Baker said this week that the DUP should have to choke down their position of being in second place. So the DUP have been well and truly used and abused by the ERG. But they are using the exact same tactics that the ERG used during 2017 and 2018, sort of to bring down Theresa May. So there is a deep question, and I've seen a lot of people in that video saying that, the DUP would have done this anyway because they came in second. I don't think they would have. I really don't think they would have thrown their toys out of the pram like this if they just come in second. Like if the whole Northern Ireland Protocol thing wasn't an issue and they came in second, I still don't think they would have done it, because you look at their base, and their base has been well and truly supporting them throughout this because of the Northern Ireland Protocol, and they are hoping that they can sort of sneak back into first place. But they have said very clearly that there will not be a functioning government so long as the Northern Ireland Protocol is in place. And we'll have to see what happens at the next election. But I'm not convinced that the DUP are going to come in first again. I'm really not convinced they're going to come in first. Well, maybe about it, but we'll have to see. Yeah. Well, this is another thing, Sonic, that a lot of people I don't think really understand, that if you do get Irish unification, the DUP is still there. Like I say, I was talking to some people when I was in Belfast, the dinner, and I asked this question: if you get reunification, how do you feel about the DUP becoming not a major force in Irish politics, because they wouldn't have the amount of vote, but the DUP would be there, sitting in the Irish Parliament. They would be there. I think they'd get between. I think it's been worked out before at like 15 and like 12% they'd get just from Northern Ireland. So there is a considerable problem that they would cause in like the Irish Parliament. A very, very big problem. And also the problem of well, probably unfortunately the problem of violence as well, because you've seen a lot of the buses set on fire and all the stuff going on in Northern Ireland for the past couple of years has come from the DUP corner. So just because Ireland gets reunified doesn't necessarily mean that like violence is over. Um, the DUP is still going to cause trouble for Ireland. Make no mistake. Make no mistake about that. They're still going to cause trouble. And the worrying thing is because of their really hard sort of religious beliefs in the DUP, they could very well link up, shockingly enough, with other hard right Catholic factions to get certain sort of things that they align with their sort of religious belief on board, even though they might be sort of Catholic and Protestant, which will make a very bizarre situation of Catholic and Protestants working together to sort of maybe get sort of tougher abortion laws passed in Ireland again. You could actually see that in a united Ireland. It will be bizarre to see certainly see the DUP working with sort of Catholics with that, but that's the bizarre situation we will see to get their stuff across the board. But yeah, yeah, it will be weird to see, but make no mistake. Yeah, Shayna Bud. Yeah, the DUP and Opus Dei Opus Dei, I think that's how you say it, working together. Oh yeah. Do not think that religious fundamentalists would not work together if they can achieve an aim. Trust me on this one. They will certainly achieve that aim. And it will probably come through a lot of foreign dark money, which we've also talked about before, coming across from the Atlantic, certainly from America, in that regard. Does Ireland have PR? Yes, I believe Ireland does have PR. I can't remember exactly what form of PR it takes. I don't think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Ireland is single transferable vote. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's like that. Catholic G, there's very little of the far right in Ireland. Not yet. Not yet. But with these guys, there will be. you know, it's yeah. That's it. Yeah. So it's single transferable vote in multi-seat areas, right? I thought it was in somewhere. I couldn't remember if it was sort of full on PR or not. But that, by the way, is what we're looking for to get in the UK. That's sort of what we're looking forward to getting. Um, So, yeah, unfortunately, this continues to rumble on, and it's not going to end anytime soon because the DUP are definitely, definitely not prepared to back down over the Northern Ireland Protocol. They have said very, very clearly, but unfortunately, you get like conservative voices, especially in our parliament, who seem to think that, oh, yeah, the DUP will back down. No, they won't, because they've been egged on by the ERG for years and now are using the exact same tactics and employees that they used back then. So, yeah, it's not a good time, to be honest, to be, I think, a voter in Northern Ireland because I don't think it's fair for the DUP to to be acting like this. I really don't think I really don't think that that it's fair for them. But of course, that's how Stormont is set out, unfortunately, in this case, and they are sort of using that to their advantage. And I like to say, I don't think it's fair for the people of Northern Ireland, regardless um, whether they are DUP voters or not. Even if you are a DUP voter and you think what the DUP is doing is right, um, it's not fair on you, and it's not fair on anyone else who voted for Sinn Féin. It's just basically not fair, because you were in a really tough crisis, and Northern Ireland really needs a government in place to help it see, especially through the cost of living crisis, especially through the energy crisis. And unfortunately, the way the DUP are doing it, you know, I would have liked to have seen the DUP be punished electorally for this. Um, but there's also a question of how long they can actually continue to do this. Because I think under so from what I've read, so but people have to correct me if I'm wrong, but if this continues, I think after a is it a third time? So we've had sort of power sharing fail once. We're going potentially to a general election, which could be twice. The DUP will do the exact same thing, which could mean we're heading for an election for a third time. And then if that fails, I believe at that point, Northern Ireland comes under, I think, joint rule of Dublin and London. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what happens. And that seems to be the direction that we're heading in. Um, but that will take some time. That will certainly take some time for it to get to that level. But it is very, very clear that the DUP are very, very happy to just cause this chaos. But even if they get into first place, I don't expect them to go in to power sharing because they want the Northern Ireland protocol gone. They want that sea border gone. They have made that abundantly clear. In any civilized country, the DUP would be outlawed. With the turmoil in Northern Ireland and England, does anyone think calling an election would improve or worsen the situation? In Northern Ireland, we would hope, we would hope that it would improve the situation. Um, I am not optimistic that even if you have a general election and the DUP sort of regain sort of the first minister position, they come in first in the elections. I am not convinced that they are going to restore power sharing. I am not convinced that they would do it. Having a general election here, well, because the Conservatives have such a majority, they ain't interested in going to a general election now, especially when you've got Labour still at a 30-point lead. Um, I don't know if that's changed because I haven't seen any of the recent polls, but I suspect we'll probably get some next week to see what people think of Rishi Sunak. But bear in mind, at this moment, hasn't really done anything yet. So, and I have said he is going to unleash austerity 2.0. And what if Sinn Féin takes more seats? At that point, the DUP becomes second. No matter what happens, even if like Sinn Féin managed to take more seats, which I again, judging by the last polls, I think it's probably going to turn out the exact same way, roughly. Maybe the DUP may pick up one or two more seats, but it won't be enough to put them back into first place. So we have to see. We'll have to see what happens certainly at this next general election, but I cannot see this issue being sorted anytime soon. You need the UUP to take DUP seats. We'll see, because a lot of the way that DUP have been acting have actually, from what we've seen initially of the polls, has actually brought them more seats, and they might even take seats from, again, the UUP, possibly. They might even take it from an alliance party, which is what they're hoping for. Maybe even, I think, what is the it's not the Labour Party, it's called, but it's like the something Labour Party. They're also trying to sort of take that back as well, and maybe win seats from them. But yeah, it's going to be a mess, I think, and we'll have to see how that vote goes. So that's it. The SDLP. That's it. I knew it was something. I knew it was like something Labour Party. But yes, let us get back to what happened this week in Parliament. Course, there was quite an interesting kerfuffle, as you may well have seen, with there we go. There we go. Because Hilary Benn this week was in Parliament kicking ass and taking names in Parliament, namely over the EU Revocation and Reform Bill. And this is, of course, the piece of legislation that we've been talking about very, very much recently, that would put a sunset clause on over 2,400 laws that, again, are retained EU law, that by the end of next year, if the government hasn't decided to keep them, just disappear. And these laws contain everything from workers' rights, holiday pay protections, paternity pay, air safety regulations, environmental protections. There are a lot of laws and regulations that could just go like that. It could be very, very, very worrying, the amount of laws that we could just lose. And one of the big things that's in the law that's not really been talked about is the fact that it gives ministers the power to do this to non-EU laws as well. It doesn't just apply to EU laws if enough MPs think that a certain law should just go. This becomes a problem. And one of the things you saw, Jacob Rees-Mogg's reaction, calling his own party members, by the way, in reaction to this, that if that they are reopening essentially the Brexit fight, and you're like, yes, they are in a way, because as we've already said, the Brexit wasn't really so much about the EU. It was more about the free market fundamentalists wanting to get rid of all the regulation. Oh, good morning from Ben Shaw. Good morning to you. Want to get rid of all the regulation versus the other conservatives who actually were like, well, no, we understand why we need regulation, and regulation is sort of good, so we should actually be in favor of regulation and be willing to do regulation. So he really has himself opened this up, and it does seem at the moment that this bill might end up on the whole Brexit bin pile, and we can hope that that is the case, because if this bill goes through, this could cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Yeah. Well, this is it, Army of Lime. You see, the thing is, the EU market was not libertarian enough for them. Like, they do not want any form of government regulation in the market. They want no government regulation. Like, it doesn't matter. It just was not. It just was not enough. And even as we've seen from the past couple of weeks, well, throughout all the Brexit debate, Brexit, even as it was put forward, was never enough. It was never enough. Even towards the end of Boris Johnson, remember, at the end of Boris Johnson's reign, we had Brexiteers saying that Johnson wasn't doing Brexit right. So remember that they were making a push to try and push Johnson to be even more hardcore on Brexit. And of course, one of the other things that has been missed is that the Office for Brexit Opportunities that Rishi Sunak said he would create, he hasn't created that yet. But also, Jacob Rees-Mogg's former position he had as the Brexit Opportunities Minister. Oh, there we go. Much better. Clear out the old silences. There you go. Right. So, where were we? So yes. So I think really bringing attention and at least making the public aware of this bill's passage through Parliament is really important. And I have said, if you are in the UK, write or email your MP telling them not to back this bill, even if they are conservative, because this bill puts far too much pressure on certainly all these different government departments, which will have to spend huge amounts of time to go through all these laws to make sure that some of these laws actually get retained. And even then, even then, there is a question whether there is enough time for them to actually do this. Because this was the point of the law. This is why Jacob Rees-Mogg and the Brexiteers are pushing this law. They know they cannot get or at least fight each of these battles individually. They know that things like workers' rights is a really tough subject for them. And that if they're seen to be getting rid of those, it will lose them votes. It will lose the red wall. But what about all these other ones as well? So their idea is to basically just, think about it like this. They're grabbing glitter. In fact, no. If anyone remembers the Crystal Maze, if anyone remembers the final task on the Crystal Maze was you were pushed into that dome and then they'd start the fans and all those golden tickets that you had to grab to sort of earn the money. They were trying to, that's what they're essentially trying to do. They are forcing Parliament into the end of the Crystal. In fact, let me get it, because there might be people who might not remember that. Let's try and find that now to show you what I mean. Maze, there we are. Oh, I had no idea they'd even done this. Let me get to the end. There's going to be the end somewhere. Yep. This is it. And this is a classic this is the classic Crystal Maze, by the way. This is Richard O'Brien's not Richard O'Brien. Is it Richard O'Brien? Yeah, there we are. So this is essentially what the Brexiteers are trying to do. They are trying to get rid of as many laws as they can, knowing full well that they won't get rid of them all, but they will get rid of enough. And that's their idea. And essentially, this is what they are trying to do. So that's... I hope that's a nice visual representation of what the EU revocation, a retained EU law bill actually is. That I hope that gives a good visual representation of what that is. But anyway, on to, let me get him up. Where is he? Hilary Benn. Like I say, Hilary Benn was in Parliament, and he had a very, very, very good talk about this. And also, it actually is worth pointing out as well, M. Carpenter, you are right. Some of these laws would mean that tariffs go up on certain products, which is certainly not going to make a lot of businesses very happy about this either. This is why I've said before, again, if you are in the UK, write and email your MP about this. Tell them, not to support this bill, that it causes far too much chaos at a time where we need a lot of stability. So definitely, please, 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 if you are in the UK, even if you have a Conservative MP, write to them about this. Tell them not to support this bill, because it does have an effect.
Another piece of legislation introduced in the name of Brexit, which we were repeatedly told was about restoring Parliament's sovereignty and supremacy. And yet what this bill is about is giving ministers absolute control over whole swathes of legislation that impact upon our national life by cutting members of parliament out of the process almost altogether, and the public as well. This is what the Hansard Society had to say. The bill, and I quote, sidelines parliament because it proposes to let all retained EU law expire on the sunset deadline unless ministers decide to save it with no parliamentary input or oversight. This is a shocking bill. As I see it, one of the main purposes is presentational. It's really trying to remove the words Europe, European, EU from the statute book. It's a form of linguistic and legislative purge, which may make those who argue to leave the EU feel better, but it doesn't add to the sum total of human happiness, because the business secretary, the former business secretary, has just left. Made it crystal clear what the aim was when he wrote to me on the 13th of October. And
yeah, can I just say this as well? Rees-Mogg, when this bill was actually being read, came in, said his piece, and then left. He didn't even stay for the whole debate. He didn't even stay for the whole debate. This is it. Yeah, this is really it. Cathology. This is what it's really about. Instead of trying to get rid of each bit of legislation individually, it's about trying to get rid of as much as possible in one law. And they know that some of that stuff will be kept. They know some of that stuff will be kept. But it is about really getting rid of it as much as possible. They know they're not going to be able to get rid of it all, but if they can get rid of a good majority, which, bear in mind, a year to go through over 2,000, it's 2,420 different laws they've got to go through. That's a lot of legislation they've got to go through in under a year. A lot of legislation.
Said that the bill will require departments to remove unnecessary or burdensome laws which encumber business and no longer meet the government's policy objectives. Well, I remind the House that one person's burdensome law is another person's safe working conditions. It's their right to take parental leave.
Yeah. And again, he makes a good point there, because it's not just about things like that. I think even the EU Working Time Directive is caught up in this. I'm not 100% sure. But that should be highlighted, that this move is being made. And I am sort of quite disappointed that Labour especially is not making a bigger stink about this than they should be. I think they should be really making a big stink about this. This will cause a lot of problems for our government, a lot of problems.
And I say that because at a time of great uncertainty and economic difficulty, what the bill does is simply, and we've heard this from others who've spoken, is add to the uncertainty. Now think of businesses, and the point was brilliantly made by my honourable friend who speaks from the opposition front bench. What businesses want to know is, what are the rules? What's the framework? Because that knowledge provides them with certainty on the basis of which they can invest and carry out their work. And what's the government doing? It's doing the absolute opposite in this bill. It's saying to every one of those businesses and every one of the would-be investors, you know what, the laws and the regulations and the rules that are in place today, well, we just need to point out they may not be in place in the same form after Christmas 2023 if we don't get around to saving them. And I must say, I can't think of an approach more calculated to undermine confidence in the British economy and to deter would-be investors than what is doing in this bill is seeking to do.
And let's point this out. This isn't the first time businesses have been worried about certainty. You may remember in the run-up to the ending of the withdrawal agreement, businesses were like, so, okay, what are the rules? Like, what are the rules on this? What are the rules? You need to tell us, because at the time we were still trading. A lot of companies were still trading with the EU, and still are trying to trade with the EU, but it's now even more difficult for them. And one of the things I would hope is that businesses would start to generally speak up and say, look, Brexit has caused all these issues for us. It's now more difficult. And how many times on this channel have we gone through local businesses or big companies in the UK going, we've lost money. Look at what was the Brexit, the Brexit export champion. Was it the Old Milk Dairy? Or the Old Dairy, which was a brewery company that used to sell a lot of beer into the EU. Their profits plummeted. They lost a load of money from it. There was the pet food company, I think in Doncaster, that used to sell seeds. They lost 30% of their business. Oh, M. Carpenter, you've got to go. Goodbye. See you later, like I say. Like I say, I've got things to do for myself, so we might try and got one more video to do after this, so we'll try and get through this as quickly as possible. But yes, we'll try and sort of wrap this up as well for the next sort of 30 or so minutes. But yes, like I say, free to come back later on and pick up from here. So one of the big things that the British public didn't pay attention to is regulations, laws, all this really technical stuff that the EU used to take care of. Who really cares about standardization of washers, of like the like literally nuts and bolts? The British public does not care about that. But that used to be all the stuff that was done in the EU. Now this is going to be coming to our parliament very soon, but to have discussions about. Now, so far, we have yet to have one of these things or one of these types of bills come through parliament. Why? Because at the moment, no one has brought through yet, because there haven't been any major changes needed as of yet. But soon, I think there will be. And I am looking forward to when we first get one of these like highly technical rules that maybe discusses things like, oh, we need to like standardize. That's it. Because I know this is one of the big things that has happened. We need to standardize these. I don't know if you can see it. So that's an end sort of phone plug. Yeah, we need to start talking about standardizing these, or maybe we even need to like something like really technical, like washing machine regulations or stuff like that. We haven't seen any of that pass through parliament yet. But I'm going to be very interested when stuff like that generally just start passing through parliament. Because the British people have yet to really understand what the amount of boring bills that are going to end up coming through parliament because of this, because we're no longer in the EU, because all that stuff needs to be taken care of over there. Now it's coming over here. Yeah, I'd love to see this bill be amended the hell out of. Yeah, I think that's gonna end up happening. But even then, if this goes to the Lords, I don't see it being passed to the Lords, and a lot of people, even in currently the MPs, don't really seem to have the appetite to pass this bill. And I think you're going to get a lot of Brexiteer fury. I think you're going to get a lot of Brexiteers being very, very angry about this bill not being passed.
I'll just point out, we're not doing very well on inward investment. We have the lowest level of inward investment in the whole of the G7. And part of the problem is I have no idea, I don't think the government has any idea, which bits of EU law they want to scrap, which bit of law they want to amend and retain, or which bits of law they want to keep in its entirety. Now, we know there's a list, reference has been made to it. It's not a little list, it's a jolly big list, and it's found in the famous dashboard. And I echo the plea of those who've made this point. I really hope they've counted everything. I mean, to paraphrase Lord Denning's famous phrase, now that the incoming tide of EU law has ebbed away, have ministers and civil servants searched every estuary, every river, every tributary, every salt marsh, to make sure they found all of the bits of legislation that will be subject to this bill. Now, it's really important they have done so, because if they've missed anything, that bit of legislation will fall in December next year.
And that is another fair point. There are a lot of interconnecting laws that we might not even have found out. Now, 2,400 laws sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But there's even people saying that in actual reality, if this law passes, and like say this sunset law goes through, you could be talking really potentially more than 3,000 different laws, because there are a lot of interconnecting laws and regulations that are linked to these EU laws, that if the EU part of those laws goes, it could leave huge black holes in laws, and that could cause absolute chaos. That could cause absolute chaos. So you can see why I keep on talking about this, and why I'm keeping an eye on this bill and where it's going to be passed through. So once again, I reaffirm the call to you all that if you are in the UK, please do write and email your MP, because this law, this bill in particular, should not pass. It should not pass at all. This is how bad this law really is. It's absolutely insane. It should not pass. But unfortunately, fortunately, it does look like it is on its way to the scrap heap. So that is at least a bit of joy, but that does not mean we should not keep up pressure on them. Like I say, I've emailed my MP about this, telling him to get rid of it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this bill ends up on the scrap heap, because it really, really, really should. But from one bit of potential, at least maybe avoided government disaster, to, well, maybe the current piece of government disasters. We're going to go over now to Yvette Cooper. Oh, hang on.
Shared on the document.
There we go. So we go from one governmental disaster to the next, as Yvette Cooper now raises Labour's serious question about, well, what other things has Yvette Cooper actually been up to, and trying to raise serious points and serious concerns as to why on earth Suella Braverman is in that position. Now, politically, I understand why she's there. Suella Braverman, pretty much with her endorsement, put Rishi Sunak into number 10. So Rishi Sunak had to reward her for doing that. Was there a dirty deal done, as Keir Starmer had suggested on Wednesday? Maybe. I don't think so. But this was very, very much done to try and keep the right wing of the Tory party on side and in line.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are about security breaches and the protection of our national security. They are questions to the Home Secretary, who was here just 5 minutes ago and who left. Yesterday, the Prime Minister promised integrity, professionalism and accountability, yet they've discarded the ministerial code, reappointed someone who breached core professional standards and has now run away from basic accountability to this House. It is the same old Tory chaos and it is letting the country down. So I have questions for the Home Secretary that the government needs to answer. The Home Secretary accepted she sent an official document via her personal email to someone who was not authorised to see it. Is this the only time she has done this? Or has she shared other documents or other sensitive information? The Home Secretary is responsible for national security. So, has the Home Office, Cabinet Office or Security Service now undertaken an investigation into her security breaches to see how many others there have been? And can I urge him to make sure that happens urgently? What security clearance has the Home Secretary been given? Does she still have access to the most sensitive documents and information? And did the Cabinet Secretary warn against her reappointment? She has been Home Attorney General. She's been a minister on and off for 4 years, so she knows the rules about government documents, yet she sent one to her own private email to someone outside the government and also copied it by accident to someone else entirely. How is anyone supposed to believe she is such a novice that she didn't know exactly what she was doing? And if she really is that much of a novice, why on earth are the rest of us supposed to trust her with our national security? And it's been reported that she sent this as an error of judgment because she was tired after going on an early morning raid. Well, is the Home Office supposed to just block her phone and her emails if she's been up half the night because she might do stupid things while she is tired? And there are suggestions that the Home Secretary was, while she was Attorney General, was investigated for a leak of information relating to the security service. Is that true? The Home Office, the Minister is a former policing minister. Does he think that if police officers breached their code of ethics and were sacked or forced to resign, they should then be reappointed to their jobs 6 days later because they said sorry? Or is it just one rule for the Cabinet and another for everyone else? Everyone knows this was a grubby deal to get a coronation to put party before country, but national security is too important for this.
There we go. Yes. First of all, good morning to you, Paz News. Yes, sorry to hear about that, my friend. Like I say, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, but if anyone is in need of a piano, Paz News in chat, get in contact with them. But yeah, sorry to hear about like I say, your situation. I've had another friend who's been. Well, he was victim of a section 21, so section 21 eviction notice. Basically, a landlord can just come along and just evict you and just give you 3 months to sort of get out because he decided he wanted to sell the house. It sucked for him. So he had to go through sort of a couple of months trying to find somewhere new to live. Luckily, like I say, he did sort of find somewhere else now, and he's sort of more settled now. So, like I say, I hope the same for you, Paz. Like I say, I hope you get, sort of settled in, and you hope you all, you hope you are well in the sort of the near future. But yes, oh yes, good morning to Valdrain, good morning to you. 3 months a while here in the US. They are nice if they give you a month. Well, yeah. Officially, the law is they've got to give you sort of 3 months, and then that's it. Like I say, the Section 21 notices, yeah, pretty grim. And again, something else the government has gone back on its promise to get rid of and then left. So that's nice. But anyway, back to sort of Braverman, essentially. How long is she going to last now as Home Secretary? I don't think she's going to last long, because the pressure on her to resign, or at least Rishi Sunak to sack her, has been growing since Wednesday. And from what we have heard, this weekend, there are going to be more pieces coming out in the news about more of these leaks that apparently she's been involved in. Now, the interesting part is that these leaks haven't been going outside the government to like non-governmental people. They've been going to backbench MPs, especially those on the right wing. And there is a deep concern as to why on earth she has been sending like Home Office confidential information to these backbench MPs. And have they, by stealth, being allowed to make essentially Home Office policy by stealth? These questions certainly must be answered, along with the very, very alarming fact that this is just a straight up security breach. And she is not someone who should be in this position at all. If we saw it on LBC, there were a lot of people phoning in from local councils and other and areas from around the country going, if I did this happened to me, I'd be sacked instantly. Yeah. You're right there. It's like I say, she's clearly broken the ministerial code. And from what we can tell, it's not just once, it's been numerous times. So which way this goes is very interesting, but this is certainly a lot of pressure that is being put on Rishi Sunak to get rid of her. But she is, of course, a member of the ERG. She is being purely put there to try and sort of secure his position with the right wing of the party. But this is a lot of pressure on him to get rid of her. Even other Tories are now going, yeah, you should probably get rid of her because it's not a good look. And remember, before he appointed Braverman, he had a speech about how this is a new era of trust and responsibility in the government. It doesn't speak well of trust and responsibility in the government where you've got certainly bringing back Suella Braverman, who just days ago resigned for making a ministerial breach. And for now, what we know, there were multiple ministerial breaches. Yeah, two venues. I'll say it again for the millionth time. Where's my general election? The Tories are not going to go for a general election. No way in hell are they going to go for a general election at the moment. They have a massive majority. They do not want to commit electoral suicide at this moment. Part of the reason Rishi Sunak is there is that he desperately wants to try and sort of avert going to a general election, and then wants to try and avoid a wipeout scenario for the Tories, because that's currently what they're looking at. Labour is ahead by around 30 points in the polls. It will be an absolute wipeout if they go. I think this would leave them with like less than 100 seats, or roughly around about 100 seats. Obviously, a lot of seats going to Labour and, of course, the Lib Dems. So those two parties would massively benefit from going to a general election now. And of course, the Tories don't want to do that. So there is certainly a sense by a lot of Tories that this is going to be their last chance from a lot of them to pass a lot of laws. So I would expect certainly to see a lot of very, very troubling laws, certainly coming from the right wing of the party, just as we have seen with the EU retained law revocation bill, which we've just watched the video about a moment ago. I would expect to see a lot more laws coming from the right wing of the party. And they are determined to do as much damage as they possibly can before leaving and just going, there you go, sort it out. And of course, one of the big things I think, and I made this clear again in the video this week as well, that we are going to get austerity 2.0. And I think the British public deserves a vote. I think they deserve a vote on, do you want to seriously go with austerity 2.0, knowing how bad the first lot of austerity was? Or do we go a different route? And I think the British public do deserve a vote on that. I really think they do. Yeah, could we train an AI to compare laws and auto reinstate them? Maybe. I don't know. And oh yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. Obviously, Rishi himself had a fine from Partygate. So yeah, he has sort of himself broken the law. But again, at the moment, that doesn't matter until probably in a couple of weeks' time, where we start to hear the Boris Johnson Partygate investigation. That is going to be interesting because that is going to drag out all the Partygate investigations. So we are probably going to get a lot of videos and a lot of testimony on what was going even more in depth than the Sue Gray report went in and around Partygate. So that's going to be very interesting because that starts. When does that start? Either next week or the week after, I believe. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. And of course, we've also got the COVID inquiry starting. So that's going to be even more embarrassing, as that inquiry is going to literally rip into the Tories for not being prepared for COVID and making really dumb mistakes. So all this narrative that the Conservatives have been trying to spin that, oh, Boris was doing his best during in COVID. Boris tried his best. Not going to fly one bit. And of course, yeah, 11 billion COVID contract fraud. Yeah. I think the COVID inquiry might be looking into that. I'm not 100% sure. If I were Labour, I'd be calling for a separate inquiry on that. That is definitely something that they really, really should look into. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's another fair point. Yeah, all this stuff is going to be really damaging. And I think it's also going to damage themselves as well when they try and rush some of these laws through. Because it's not going to be a good look. It's not going to be a good look because Rishi said he's going back to the 2019 manifesto. But when they start trying to push all these new laws through that aren't in the manifesto, remember, one of the key reasons a lot of Tories wanted to get rid of Liz Truss was because she was doing stuff and abandoning the 2019 manifesto. And I think Rishi Sunak is going to have to, sooner or later, admit he might have to go to a general election to try and get a mandate because of all the stuff that he wants to sort of do to essentially get the UK out of this current mess, which will be his excuse. And also remember, Rishi Sunak, when it comes to financially, he's a lot more right-wing than Boris Johnson is. So I think we are really going to get austerity. And there's a lot of talk about how he is going to cut public services, but it's not going to be as deep as people think. But remember, we've had 13 years of Tory austerity, of services literally cut to the bone. And now Rishi Sunak is going, oh, don't worry. Instead of taking an arm, I'm just going to take a finger. Is it all right? We're just going to take a finger. And there are a lot of people going to bizarrely celebrate that. It's just going to make public services in the UK even worse. And who bore the brunt of all the austerity for all these years? It was local councils. And I think with even more money taken away from local councils, I worry that you will probably see some local councils go bankrupt. I really think that'll be the case. Because a lot of local councils, especially during austerity, managed to stay afloat because they had access to EU money. Well, that access to EU money is no longer there. So we're looking at very worrying times ahead. We'll probably find out next week with the autumn statement, or the Halloween statement, as it's probably going to be called. So look forward to those tricks or treats from Rishi Sunak. But yeah, like I say, as always, we'll be bringing you the news on that. And like I say, thank you very much, everyone, for joining me today. Like I say, we're normally outside walking, but of course, like I say, when you do something called the Good Morning Walk, sometimes the weather gets in the way. Hopefully, next weekend the weather will be a lot more better, and we will be able to be bringing you, of course, as normal, from the outside to giving you all the best week that happened in this week's in politics. But like I say, it is good sometimes that we can do this, because then, like I say, that I can show you sort of the videos and stuff like that I want to talk about. So that is good. But as always, thank you very much for joining me today. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. There's the YouTube thank you button, you can also hit. We've also got the Pony Club you can join as well, where you get badges, emojis, and whatnot that you can use. And as always, there is the Buy Me Coffee link down below, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel. Even if you do just hit the like and share button on your way out, that will be very, very much appreciated. If you are watching me on YouTube, remember to leave a comment after as well, because that helps with all the algorithmical stuff. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday, because we will have a live stream in this format as we normally do on Wednesday. I might try maybe do a Good Morning Walk if it's nice. Maybe next week, maybe instead of a normal live stream. I'll let you know. Again, weather depending, of course. But as always, thank you very much for coming along, joining us. It's been absolutely fantastic. And yes, we'll see you all next time. And of course, thank you very much to everyone. Have a safe weekend. If you can't be safe, at least be sensible. And as always, have a good weekend, and we'll see you all very soon.